Hello and welcome to My Karate, My Life. I'm Chrissie Howard. This podcast is a space for stories, lessons and reflections from a lifetime of karate. I've spent over 4 decades training, teaching and learning, not just how to move but how to grow. And through that time I've come to realise that karate is never just about technique, it's about who you become along the way. In this podcast I'll be sharing personal stories from my journey, the challenges, the doubts, the lessons that have stayed with me and the moments that shaped not only my karate but my life. We'll talk about confidence, about fear, about resilience and about what it really means to keep going even when things feel difficult. Some episodes will be quiet reflections, some will be lessons from the dojo and some will be conversations with others walking their own martial path. This isn't about being the best, it's about showing up, learning and continuing, no matter where you are on your journey. Whether you've trained for years or you've never stepped into a dojo, I hope something here speaks to you. So thank you for being here and I look forward to sharing this journey with you. Hello and welcome to My Karate, My Life. I'm Chrissie Howard and this is episode 8. This podcast is where karate meets life. Through experience, through challenge, and through growth. In each episode, I'll be sharing insights from my own journey woven with psychology, science, and philosophy. Karate is more than a collection of movements or techniques. It is a lens through which to view the world. The principles of respect, integrity, courage, and self-discipline permeate every aspect of life. I discovered that mastering, or at least trying to master a kata or a punch or a kick was only half the battle. The real challenge lay in mastering myself. Through decades of training and teaching, I came to understand that true strength is quiet, it's persistent and it's grounded. It is the ability to stand firm in the face of adversity, to act with clarity and kindness, and to cultivate resilience, not just in the body, but in the spirit and the mind too. Why so much fear? Whether it's a grading, a competition, stepping into the dojo, or even teaching in front of others. Why does karate fill us with so much fear? Fear hits us so hard. Why do some martial artists feel physically sick before an event? I know I have. In fact, I have been known to be physically sick. Why do experienced karateka still get anxiety after decades of training? And why, even after all these years, does that nervous energy still live quietly inside us? I say quietly, but I know for some of us, it may feel like it's more screaming than quietly residing. The nausea before gradings, or any type of karate event, the racing thoughts, the overwhelming feeling of dread, moments where the pressure became so intense you were physically sick. Even now, the anxiety still exists somewhere inside me. I just wear it better now. And I suspect many martial artists understand exactly what I mean. As martial artists, we often expect ourselves to be mentally strong at all times. We train discipline, composure, and resilience. We bow onto the dojo floor, trying to embody calmness and control. But underneath the gi, we are still human beings built for survival. Deep inside the brain is a structure called the amygdala. I speak of it often. It's part of our ancient survival system. Its job is to constantly scan for danger. The problem is that the brain does not always know the difference between physical danger and psychological threat. To the nervous system, standing alone in front of a line of grading examiners can feel alarmingly similar to standing exposed in front of a real threat. Your biology will react accordingly. The sympathetic nervous system activates the famous fight or flight response. These physical reactions to that will not feel unusual to you. Your heart rate rises, your breathing might change, your muscles might tighten, there'll be an adrenaline surge, and your digestion will slow down. This is why some people feel nauseous before competition or grading. The body literally diverts energy away from your digestion because it believes survival is the priority. Your body is preparing for battle. Fear is chemistry as much as emotion. Adrenaline is designed to sharpen reactions and prepare the body for explosive movement. In kumite, this can actually enhance speed and aggression, but excessive adrenaline can also create shaking hands, tunnel vision, dizziness, nausea, panic, and loss of fine motor control. Ironically, the same chemical that helps fighters react can also make them feel overwhelmed. Cortisol is the body's stress hormone. Before a grading or a tournament, cortisol levels can remain elevated for days. This prolonged stress state explains why martial artists feel emotionally exhausted before they even begin. Poor sleep, irritability, emotional sensitivity, mental fatigue, all those things. Thank you, cortisol. The body stays on alert long before the event arrives. A grading is never just about technique. Not really. Psychologically, gradings challenge identity. You are standing in front of others, asking to be evaluated. Not just physically, but emotionally too. I sit on grading panels now, and I won't lie, they often make me feel emotional. My instinct is to want to protect and care for others. That is my nature. So to be sat in front of them, witnessing their fear, is genuinely quite hard. I couldn't be prouder in those moments if the people stood before me. They are the perfect sample of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Every karateka has likely experienced thoughts such as, what if I fail? What if I freeze? What if I forget? What if I embarrass myself? What if I let my instructor down? What if I am not good enough? Psychologists call this evaluation anxiety, the fear of judgment. And martial arts can intensify this because so much of our identity becomes tied to our progress. Belts are symbolic, ranks carry meaning, karate becomes deeply personal. Failure, therefore, feels personal too. One of the biggest misconceptions in martial arts is that confidence removes fear. It doesn't. I'll say that again. It does not. Many experienced fighters, instructors, and senior grades still experience enormous anxiety before events. The difference is usually that experience teaches emotional regulation. We learn how to breathe through stress. We learn how to manage adrenaline. We learn how to control outward reactions. We learn how to function despite fear. The anxiety may still exist internally, but externally we learn composure. This is something rarely spoken openly about in martial arts culture. Many senior practitioners are not fearless. They are simply experienced at carrying fear. What makes martial arts unique is that training repeatedly exposes us to control discomfort. We spar under pressure, we perform while being watched, we get corrected publicly, we fail in front of others, we step into uncertainty over and over again. From a psychological perspective, this is actually powerful conditioning. Each time we survive these stressful experiences, the brain slowly learns, I can cope with this. I survived this last time. This is one reason martial arts builds resilience so effectively, not because fear disappears, but because we repeatedly practice functioning alongside it. Courage is often misunderstood. People imagine courage means feeling calm and confident, but in reality, courage often feels exactly like fear. The hands shaking, the racing heart, the self-doubt. The real difference is action. A courageous martial artist is not someone who's never failed or has never feels afraid. A real martial artist is someone who's failed repeatedly, and despite the fear and the failure, bows onto the mat repeatedly. Someone who steps forward while their nervous system is screaming at them to step back. That's martial arts. And perhaps that is one of the deepest lessons that karate teaches us too. Not how to eliminate fear, but how to stand beside it with dignity. To acknowledge it, say hi to it, to breathe through it, take a breath, to wear it better, stand tall. One of the reasons I've started speaking more openly about the psychological side of karate is because I believe too many people silently think they are weak for feeling fear, anxiety, overwhelm, and even self-doubt. After all, I've witnessed others make fun of people for feeling afraid. I've been made fun of myself and described as a weak little fledgling for feeling fear. We are not weak. We are human. In this podcast, I've begun sharing more science, biology, psychology, and nervous system education each week because I want to help expose what is really happening beneath the surface. So much of what we experience before gradings, competitions, public performance, or pressure situations is deeply rooted in our DNA, our chemistry, and our survival biology. These reactions are natural phenomena. I love the word phenomena, and fear it equally, because I never know how my pronunciation might land. It sometimes turns out as phenomena, but really I just mean phenomena. The shaking hands, the nausea, the racing heart, the urge to run away. These are ancient biological responses designed to protect us. Trust me, we are better with them than we are without them. It's better that we make them a friend than an enemy. Understanding this is important. It's important because when people understand what is happening inside their body and their mind, they often become kinder to themselves. Shame starts to lessen, self-judgment softens, fear becomes something to work with rather than something to hide from. Education creates awareness, awareness creates understanding, and understanding creates compassion, both for ourselves and others. Perhaps that too is part of a true path of karate. So we're on to our listener question of the week from Emily. So thank you, Emily, for sending this in. As with all questions, they might appear simple in the sentence, but a lot more complicated to respond. So I'll do as best I can. Because Emily's question is, what has karate taught me about myself that life couldn't? Here goes. Karate has taught me that courage and fear can exist in the very same moment. For many years, I believed courage meant the absence of fear. I thought strong people somehow felt less anxiety, less hesitation, and less self-doubt. But my own life experience has taught me something very different. Karate taught me that bravery is often trembling hands, it's often a racing heart, and it's often showing up anyway. When I look back over my life, both inside and outside of martial arts, I can now see countless moments where I moved forwards despite feeling frozen with fear. Gradings, competitions, teaching, public demonstrations, walking onto the dojo floor, carrying the weight of expectation. Yet strangely, some of the most frightening moments of my life happened outside of karate. And that was during my years working in the prison service, and prior to that in police custody. I have been in situations involving real danger, real violence, and real emergencies. I have witnessed cell fires, I've recovered injured offenders from those cell fires, supported colleagues in moments of crisis, and entered situations many people would instinctively run away from. And what has always fascinated me about this is, in those moments, the fear disappeared. There was no overthinking, there was no paralysis, there was no self-consciousness, only action. I stepped forward, I took control, I supported others when they froze, I moved toward danger, not away from it. Afterwards, I often reflected on the strange contradiction within myself. How could someone capable of functioning calmly in genuinely dangerous situations become so overwhelmed performing karate in front of others? Psychology perhaps offers some interesting insight into this. When human beings face genuine survival situations, the brain becomes incredibly task-focused. The nervous system narrows onto more immediate action. Training, instinct, and purpose take over. There is no time for self-evaluation because survival demands presence. The prefrontal cortex, the analytical part of our brain, responsible for self-conscious thought, becomes quieter. You simply respond. This is why people often perform heroically during real emergencies and only emotionally process the event afterwards. But public performance anxiety is different. A grading or demonstration does not usually threaten physical survival. It threatens identity. The fear is psychological. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if people judge me? What if I'm not enough? The things I talked about earlier in this podcast. Research in psychology shows that social evaluation activates many of the same neural pathways as physical danger. To the nervous system, rejection from the group has historically meant vulnerability and isolation, something our ancestors were biologically wired to fear. In many ways, performing kata in silence before senior grades can feel psychologically more exposing than facing physical danger. One threatens the body, the other threatens the self. And perhaps that is why martial arts becomes such a powerful teacher. Karate repeatedly asks us to stand in vulnerability. Karate repeatedly asks us to be seen. Karate repeatedly asks us to risk failure. Karate repeatedly asks us to face judgment and to continue despite discomfort. Over time, I think karate slowly conditioned something deeper inside me. Not fearlessness, but response. The ability to move forwards even when every part of the nervous system wanted to retreat. Maybe karate prepared me for those moments in the prison service more than I realised at the time. Perhaps years of discipline, pressure, repetition, and controlled adversity built an internal framework that emerged automatically under genuine crises. Or perhaps something else emerged too. The instinct to protect others. There is interesting science behind this as well. Studies on emergency response behaviour suggest that in moments of crisis, some individuals shift rapidly from self-preservation toward protective action, particularly when responsibility, leadership, or care of others becomes emotionally dominant. Sometimes purpose overrides fear, and perhaps that is what happened in those moments. The leader appeared, not because fear was absent, but because something more important took priority. Karate has taught me many things over the years, but perhaps the most important is this. Human beings are far more capable than they realise. Fear can convince us that we are weak. Experience can prove otherwise. And maybe true courage is not found in the absence of fear at all. Maybe it is found in the quiet decision to keep stepping forwards, whether onto the dojo floor, into a dangerous situation, or simply into the difficult moments that life asks us to face. Writing and reflecting on some of my experience lately has stirred something unexpected inside me. Pride. Not ego, not arrogance, just a quiet, reflective pride. Because when I stop and look backwards, I sometimes find myself wondering, how did I, this chronically shy child, become this person? How did the girl who felt fearful, anxious, uncertain, and overwhelmed so often, so very often, go on to walk through so much? How did she learn to lead, to protect others, to stand in front of rooms full of people teaching? to step into dangerous situations when others froze, to keep showing up again and again, despite fear constantly whispering in the background. I think a lot about becoming. Not arriving, not perfection, not suddenly transforming into someone fearless, but becoming. Psychology tells us that human beings are not fixed. The brain itself is adaptive. Neuroplasticity shows us that repeated experience literally reshapes neural pathways over time. Every difficult situation we survive teaches the nervous system something new. I endured this, I coped with this, I survived this. Over years and decades, those moments accumulate quietly beneath the surface. And perhaps that is what martial arts really are. Not simply the learning of techniques, but the slow construction of the self. Layer by layer, failure by failure, lesson by lesson. Karate did not remove my fear, but maybe it slowly changed my relationship with it. Every grading attended whilst terrified, every class taught despite self-doubt, every difficult life experience faced head-on. All of it became evidence. Evidence that fear and capability can coexist. I think many people imagine confidence appears first and then action follows. My experience has been the opposite. Action came first, then slowly over time, identity began to change. You realise I am someone who can survive difficult things. And perhaps that is the becoming. Not becoming fearless, but becoming someone who no longer abandons themselves in the presence of fear. There is also something deeply philosophical about martial arts in this sense. Traditional karate was never solely about combat. At its deepest level, it has always been concerned with character formation, the shaping of human beings through adversity, discipline, humility, repetition, and reflection. Not the pursuit of perfection, but the pursuit of growth. When I look back now, I do not see a fearless person. I see someone who kept stepping forwards while still afraid. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that is actually something worth being proud of. I hope that's answered your question well, Emily. I'd love to hear from more of you, so please reach out via the socials and I will include your questions in future episodes. Thank you to everyone for listening, those that are listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate your support in helping it to grow. You can find My Karate, My Life on Spotify, YouTube and Podbean. If you'd like to connect on social media, you'll find my karate community on Facebook at Gambarukai. Until next time, keep training, keep learning, and most importantly, keep showing up.